So moving to the other side of the coin then, for the people who are against birthright citizenship and are trying to support the president's executive order, we look at the language of the 14th Amendment and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that little clause. Why is it there? It's got to mean something, because people are smart who wrote the 14th Amendment. If they just meant to say that anyone born here should be citizens, they would just leave it at that. But they put in and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. And they make the argument that that means that they're here legally. They're subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning the parents. So that's number one. And it's acknowledged that the 14th Amendment, as we said, was to make the 1866 Civil Rights Act passed as a constitutional amendment. As I was reading through these things, when you say now to the jurisdictions thereof, throughout the Wong Kim Ark decision, they also make the decision that this isn't just, yeah, of course, his parents were here. They were born, kid was born citizen. They have exceptions. Oh, like what? Now remember, this is 1898. So we're not in the lens of 2026. In that time frame, there were exceptions such as if a child is born of two Native Americans, they called them Indians at the time. And if they were still among the tribes that held out allegiance to the tribe and not the United States, your kid didn't get automatic citizenship. You were considered illegal, or at least not a citizen. They also talked about the same thing about ambassadors, because their allegiance was to their country. They came here to be the ambassador on behalf of England or Japan or whatever, Libya. If they have a kid while they're here, their still allegiance is to their country because they're ambassadors. And your kid, says the Supreme Court, doesn't get automatic citizenship. So you translate that to today's issue, it would seem to fit into the argument of, wait a minute, well, if you're not here legally, why is your kid going to get automatic citizenship? And why would you reward people who broke the law to get here to get citizenship therein? So the question, I think, is going to come down to whether or not the United States Supreme Court is going to latch onto that distinction, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, meaning if they really look at Wong Kim Ark's parents as domiciled residents, quote unquote, that's a significant thing. If they choose to overlook it, I don't know. I mean, I listened through some of the arguments. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I read accounts from different news outlets because I always try to triangulate my news because people want you to believe certain things and how they report it. It seems like the court is relatively divided on it, and it's going to be interesting to hear how they decipher and go through all of this. There's a lot more here I could go through, but I'm not going to give you, 100-page thing. But that's Birthright Citizenship, which probably will be released, I would imagine, prior to the October term when they come back.
Right.
But who knows?
Yeah. I mean, and it's, for people, it sounds like, oh, you're splitting hairs. Well, that's the law. That, the law and the courts and the attorneys are all about splitting hairs and about looking at what is meant in the specific legal definition. I mean, the other thing is that you have to take a look at is that when this was written, they had just, as Rob and I discussed beforehand, that everyone was talking about like, well, it was written for slaves, and it was written like, the 14th Amendment was basically to ensure that the slaves had rights as citizens of the United States. Well, take a look at this, where that's a completely different situation, where you now have people that were, for all intents and purposes, involuntarily brought here and are now living here, as opposed to people that are coming in of their own volition and avoiding and skirting immigration rules. So it's, and again, we're keeping this as apolitical as possible, but we're looking at it from, you know, splitting the legal hairs. It's not as clear cut as either one of us thought. I mean, when we were first discussing about having this as part of the episode, we were both like, okay, well, it'll be
That's
something
kind
quick,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden you start taking a look at it like you do with anything, and the deeper you dig, the more you find out, and the more you're like, holy crap, this isn't as clear as I thought.